basically, Jacobin released this article about incels or something. I've not read the article yet, so we'll go over the article on stream now. But I've seen the reaction to it, right? And I don't know, it kind of... Look, I've not read the article, admittedly. Maybe my opinion will change after I've read the article. But I can't help but shake the feeling. This is another one of those kind of examples where people are willing to engage with... Hey, Stage of Main. Pim tool time, yeah. People are willing to engage with the concept. Right? Of like people being the results of their circumstances, but then it cuts off at a certain point, right? So it's like, oh yeah, this person is in their situation because of systemic issues. Partly because of systemic issues, mainly because of whatever way you want to phrase it. Oh yeah, that person's in their position because of systemic issues. That person's in their situation because of systemic issue. Well, what this person? Oh no, they're just bad and evil. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, someone called this article class reductionist, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, look, I've not read it yet. Exactly, Lex. Exactly. Precisely. It's so simple. It's so simple to me. But for some reason, people don't seem to be able to get there. Oh, hey, fun with Fondue. Thanks for the raid. Hope you're good. Yeah. Almost like... yeah, capitalism fucks all of us up, and it affects us all in different ways. And it just so happens that incels, it affects them in a much more dangerous way, right? Like, anyway, let's read this article, okay? Like, listen, I even saw someone, I can't remember where I saw it, right? But someone, and I'm sure they're not the only one, I even saw someone have the take, right? Of how can that person have issues with poverty? They've got a gun. How can they afford a gun? And it's like, that's exactly the same energy as when people criticize like immigrants for having a mobile phone, right? Like, do people understand that you can have possessions and still be affected by poverty? Right? Like, people can have a possession, an item, and still be affected by poverty or something, It's just like, it's mind-boggling to me when a circumstance or, yeah, exactly, shoot in the box. A circumstance or a type of person is brought up in a conversation of like, Can we at least say no sunglasses, Cat? No. Of course, no. I agree. I think incels are correct. Actually,
I see you live in capitalism. Yet
no
you
sunglasses,
have an iPhone.
Cat. I think
wow.
I agree with incels.
What a hypocrite! Socialism destroyed. Vuvuzuela.
What a stupid thing to say. Of course, I disagree with them. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? You really think that I'm gonna fucking sit here and be like, oh, you say, oh, come on, you've got to really... Of course they're fucking wrong. What, are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. Do you watch my fucking content? As if I'm going to sit here and agree with incels. As if I'm going to sit here and fucking go, oh yeah, incels are right, actually. Squad W. Like, obviously not. Why do you expect me to denounce incels? Of course I don't agree with them. However, you can, on the one hand, accept and appreciate the fact that they are the result of a massive systemic issue, while still disagreeing and disavowing the rhetoric they engage in, their perspective and their worldview. Look, there's even a tweet. Oh my God, look. There's even a tweet. Look, someone even tweeted that about this already. Look. People on Twitter can't see the difference between examining some underlying causes of a bad thing and making excuses for the bad thing. You just did that. That's exactly what you just did. By asking me to disavow it, of course. Of course. Now we've all calmed down. Let's continue, okay? Listen, if you want fun moulding, you know the place to come. Like I say, though, I've not even read the fucking article. Let's get into it. Let's see what was so controversial about this article. Oh, geez, it's a long one. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, it is a long one. It's... Mucho texto. Wall of runes. Mucho texto, wall of runes. Don't read it, Chud. Let's audiobook it. We can do this, go on. Right. So a portrait of the breakdown of hope and meaning in America. Even at a glance, the incel subculture reveals vile misogyny, reactionary politics of all kinds, and multiple acts of horrific violence. I mean, the article itself, oh hey Freems, denounces like what's going on in the first sentence. Like, it calls it vile misogyny, multiple acts of horrific violence. Like, how much more of a denouncement do you need than that? Like, I don't know. I've not read the full article yet, but the people were saying this is engaging in some sort of like apologia for incels or something like that. I don't know what the situation with it is. If it's like a YouTube video, I could probably watch it on stream. Get me cancelled. Go on, do it. Yeah. How do we know? Yeah, exactly. Of course it can. You know. Like, do people realise that, like, being an incel is not a voluntary thing? Like, it's in the name. It's in the name. It is what it says on the tin. Involuntarily celibate. Involuntary celibate. Oh, God, I don't know the word. It's in the name. People don't wake up one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to choose to be an incel. Like, in their mind, they don't have a choice. I mean, obviously, you know, again, all of this is linked into the fucking... Yeah, that's true. Identifying as one is. There are voices, though. Yeah, no, the incel community has. But that's the thing, isn't it, right? It's like, if there's this community, right? If there's this community and they feel like their only answer is to turn to the alt-right, well, there's a problem there, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? I know, it's just like, anyway, come on, let's get on with this, okay? Part of the subculture is a breakdown of the breakdown of institutions, the disappearance of decent economic opportunities, and a broader loss of meaning in America. I mean, I think, because this is what was in the tweet. Do you see what I mean? So basically what they were saying. Yeah. Sunglasses, you realise that's a false dichotomy, don't you? You realise that those aren't mutually exclusive, right? Like, you can have issues because of misogyny and because of capitalism. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to choose one, you know? Okay, let's get into this anyway. So earlier this spring, it was reported that the online community of involuntary celibates was celebrating the dawn of COVID-19 lockdown, rejoicing on message boards like Reddit and 4chan, as a large chunk of society became, for a brief glimmer in time, housebound, lonely, and sexist. Jesus, imagine celebrating that. That's pretty sad. The subculture, which has existed online since the early 90s, is a loose amalgamation of online groups and mainly angry sensibilities drawn together by rejection and sexual frustration. In recent years, a number of mass shootings committed by incels, as well as the subculture's tendency towards a particularly resentful form of misogyny, have drawn headlines. Those celebrating lockdown took an ironic glee in the fact that single women in particular would be stopped from having casual sex. This is the thing. There's this element. There's this like element of like wanting to control women within this, which is kind of like a cornerstone of like standard misogyny, right? Like this desire to control women and feeling threatened or feeling, you know, a certain way because women are, you know, exerting control over their own bodies, over their own sexuality, and so on, right? So, yeah, I can see why, in the mind of an incel, obviously, that's going to be a good thing, right? But to me, like, I don't know. But a number of high-profile arrests seem to suggest this was not a zero-sum game. The fact that we'd all temporarily become incels. I mean, that's actually a good point. I mean, unless you're married, I guess. Unless you live with your girlfriend or you're married, you would have become. I've been an incel for during lockdown. Unless you're married or you've got a, you know, I've seen people who hooked up during lockdown. I don't know. I mean, that seems fairly dangerous to me. You formed a bubble. Yeah, I mean, obviously there were ways and means you could do it safely, but I don't know. How have you coped? Have you... What? The olive tree? That's random. Why would I do that? That's a very, like, specific thing to go and get. Okay. The fact that we became term didn't mean the subculture was ready to dissolve itself. Plans for a neo-Nazi incel hit squad were unearthed by police, and then later an alleged plan to attack hot cheerleaders. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? before a homemade bomb that a guy was making blew one of his hands off. Jesus, that's terrible. For those incels, the spike that drives the movement froths and shudders just as it had before we were all forced inside. The left tends to have a difficult time talking about incels. Wow. 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 Oh my god. This article nailed it. This article has been the subject of like absolutely ridiculous discourse. Oh dear mama, that's spicy. The fact that this has led to the most absurd discourse, to this article getting accused of being like class reductionary, loads of people going, oh, won't someone think of the poor white males, and all this stuff. I don't know. The people really believe most virgins have some violent uprising movement in mind. No, I don't think so. I think what this is referring to isn't like virgins as a whole. This is like the incel community, right? So these are people that kind of self-identify as incels, and really lean into the horrendous like misogyny and the violence and all this kind of stuff, you know? Yeah. The incel subculture. The often reactionary rhetoric that can tend to lead to real violence means the subculture more broadly is readily dismissed rather than constructively engaged with. Angela Nagel's book is a notable contribution to the debate, although it tended to over-determine the role of political correctness in producing a set of violence and reactionary online groups. A new documentary... Oh, wait. Oh, it's only a clip. We can watch the clip, though, after I finish this, okay? A new documentary, The Face When No Girlfriend, which stands for that feel when no girlfriend, is poised to become another touch point, cautiously taken up by critics as a definitive cinema of the incel. Let's watch this clip. Wrong. TFW means that face when. MFW means it means that face when I have no girlfriend. It doesn't mean that feeling when. God, get your memes right, will you? Is this all it is?
Everyone my age kind of just grows up on the internet.
No, then I'm sure it's that face when, not that feel when. Isn't it?
When I think back,
okay, maybe I got it wrong.
I think about like what bullshit I was doing on
it can mean
4chan,
both. Okay, fair enough.
because that's the only place that kind of seemed real. Well, this was after I dropped out. I was so depressed and just felt so hopeless what I was doing.
Listen again. Listen now, okay?
When I think back, I think about like what bullshit I was doing on 4chan, because that's the only place that kind of seemed real. Well, this was after I dropped out. I was so depressed and just felt so hopeless that I didn't have the energy to do anything. I didn't have the energy to talk to anyone. So in a day, I'd get up, I'd get something to eat. It really was just kind of sitting in bed and sometimes watching TV, but other times it was more like, I don't know, just kind of looking out the window, just the normal, really weird, depressed shit that you find yourself doing and don't really know why. And when I found myself on like 4chan and Twitter and stuff like that, I realized that there was, other people who are kind of going through the same shit and not really knowing what to do.
Just for the people that listen, the reason it's Wojaks, okay, listen. The reason it's Wojaks is because, unironically, these Wojaks are very expressive of the emotion or the feeling that these people have about the state of their life, right?
That feeling when no bar booey in my dick and balls, dick and balls, dick and balls, dick and balls. Measuring my skull to prove my inferiority as a man to the lads on the subreddit dick and balls, dick and balls, dick and balls, dick and balls.
Thank you very much for the tono. Yeah, exactly, Watson. Listen, I can relate to this. I went through myself an enormous depressive episode for like, it was 6 months. It was 6 months that like, I went through this like cycle of depression. But the thing is for me is that I have always like, I would go on dates and go to Tinder and stuff as like a distraction from my depression. Do you see what I mean? Yeah? Yeah, 4chan consumed me as well. Holy fuck, did it? I can relate to what this dude is saying. The only difference between me and this dude, probably, there's probably a few things, but the one thing that's different between me and this dude is that, like, I was able to go out and, like, talk to women on dating sites and meet women and so on, right? So I never had an issue with that side of it. And I think that the rejection that can come if you don't meet certain standards in society, the thing is, there'll always be someone that you can meet and you can, engage with and go on a date with and stuff. There'll be someone that accepts you for who you are, but it can be difficult to find that person. And if you're not conventionally attractive, or you've got like, you're neurodivergent, or, you're socially awkward, whatever it is, that can really have an impact on your ability to see through the rejection, to push through, to meet the person that you're going to meet, yeah? So yeah, I think that, like, yeah, exactly. It offers a false community. What you need is a group of, like, friends. Like, the best thing, I think if you're having trouble, like, meeting women and engaging with women and stuff, is to, like, engage with people that do, but do it in a healthy way, so you can kind of speak to them and learn from them. You know what I mean? But yeah, I listen to this and I completely understand this dude and what he's going through, right? Do you see what I mean? I get it. I just get it. Man to man. Do you know what I mean? And what frustrates me about all this, right, is we're willing, and this links into the fucking toxic masculinity stuff, right? What frustrates me is when progressives and people on the left, they prop up toxic masculinity by not taking this stuff seriously, right? And it feels like we're able to have a conversation about the plight of any group. So whether it's trans issues or minority issues or issues that women face, we're willing to have that conversation and we're willing to engage with it, you know? But it just feels sometimes like when it's men's turn, and it isn't. And listen, it isn't very often men's turn to be at the centre of attention for talking about these issues. Let's be real here, and that's fine. That's understandable. Okay, it's of course understandable that minority groups and things like that are going to get more attention and are going to be discussed more. And I totally get that, and I accept and I appreciate that. Okay. But it would be nice if when it's men's turn to be at the centre of attention and to go, hey, look, we've got some problems in society that affect men as well. Like this article was trying to do. You know, we could go, okay, that sucks. Let's talk about it. Let's engage with the idea. Let's see what the systemic issues are. Let's be considerate and kind. But instead of doing that, it feels like people just fucking want to just throw all that away. And the care and consideration that's shown to everyone else, when it comes to men, it's just forgotten. Do you see what I mean? And it is frustrating. It's really frustrating. It's so easy to dismiss it. Yeah? But they're not... Okay. People don't wake up in the morning and just think, oh, I'm going to be misogynistic now. Right? It's complicated, yeah? Men being held down patriarchy for too long. You did, okay. You decided you're going to be racist now. But, I don't know. I hate it. I hate it. And all this, like, you know, ironic men are trash stuff. I don't like any of it. You know, anyone that watches my content knows I'm against, like, you know, slurs for this, slurs for that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You know, but this ironic, like, men are trash stuff, it's just fucking, it's so ridiculous. And listen, oh my God, do you know what the worst one of all? Do you know what the worst one of all is? The one I've heard that really makes me angry. Men are trash, except for trans men. How fucking invalidating is that? Holy shit. Holy fuck. Imagine holding that position in your brain. I tell you what, get the fuck out here with that shit. So you think all men are trash? Well, that must include trans men, because trans men are men, though. Oh, okay, but it doesn't include trans men. So what does that mean? You don't think trans men are men? Now look, we can talk about cis men and stuff. Let me tell you this. Trans men get the fucking worst roll of the dice in all of this, okay? Trans men get the worst roll of the dice in all of this, okay? It's ridiculous. I'm not nondescript. It's not all about you. What are you talking about? I'm not even talking about your point anymore. Jesus. I'm not getting pissy with you. Listen, this stream isn't all about you. You're just one person of fucking 70 or whatever in chat, okay? Jesus. When was the last time there was, like, broad discourse about trans men? Can anyone remember when, like, when we spoke a lot about issues that affect trans men. This is part of the reason why I think Jordan Peterson took off so well. He appealed to young alienated men in a post-feminist world, in the sense that feminist critiques have been made and traditional masculinity is being deconstructed, but there's a few possible ideas of new masculinity constructed for men to reach for. Yeah, exactly. No. It's a double-edged sword. Trans men are often ignored by the media, meaning they have less representation, but they're also less likely to be the primary target of hate campaigns. Yeah. No, sure. But the thing is like, again, you look at it from the angle of like, there's different challenges with that, right? What? Nondescript? Why are you being so fucking hostile? What is your problem? I'm sorry, you're a fucking idiot. I don't know what to tell you. Let's finish watching this clip.
To do with their lives, or if there actually even is anything to really do with your life, if you're kind of disassociated and indifferent to a lot of things. I came to realize that I might be stumbling into something I find really important, and it did turn out that way.
I mean, look, I know that obviously you're like thinking, oh, it's just the Wojak documentary, and I know that seems ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, I do. Like, listen, I of course reject and stand against misogyny, the violence. Obviously, like. Of course I'm not down with that. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, what's the answer? What's the solution? Because I don't think just endlessly shitting on men is helping, okay? Listen, here's a hot take for you, okay? Here's a hot take for you. Being shitty to men isn't going to help. Is that completely ridiculous to think? And the other thing as well that this ignores, again, is the class issue. Right? Oh, hey, it's Judith. How you doing? Like, some of these people are like dirt poor. Like, how does that play into it? That's part of intersectionality, right? Like, listen, if you look at a poor white dude and a poor black lady, broadly speaking, the poor black lady's going to have it worse, right? But that doesn't mean that the poor white dude doesn't have their own issues too that need to be addressed by, you know, the systemic issues that exist. Yeah, exactly. Dating is very difficult if you don't have the conventional things. Like, listen, look, I don't, I just don't have an issue. Like, I've always been quite an extroverted character, you know? So I don't have an issue with this stuff. But if you're like an introvert, if you, yeah. Oh, hi, boycott. But no, Kern, look, wait, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying it's a pure class issue. Of course it's not. There's other things going on here besides just class. So don't misunderstand me. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying this is just a class issue, okay? But what I'm saying is the way that class intersects with these other issues, it creates this, it's bad. And I think because dudes have got, can be fucking assholes and be misogynistic and stuff, which is bad, obviously, I think I agree that I can understand why people maybe find it difficult to be empathetic to these people, And it's why I think it's important to remember that whilst there are other factors in play, I would argue that broadly we are the results of our environment, right? And yes, there's other things that come into it, But people arrive in this position, I doubt very much there's any 8 or 9 or 10-year-old little boy out there that thinks to their future and wants to be in a position like this, I doubt very much there's a mother out there that looks at their little boy Jimmy, 8 years old, and wishes this life upon them. Yeah? I thought I'd be an engineer by now. Yeah, exactly. Look at the crushed dreams. Okay, so there's an expectation still in society today that men have to be the breadwinner, the top dog, the best job, the best dressed, the best watch, whatever, the right height, and all this kind of stuff. So men strive to achieve these prestigious jobs, and then they don't. Because it's a trick. Because capitalism isn't this meritocracy that we're led to believe. But these men have been geared up their whole lives. You're the top dog. You're going to be top of the pile. You're the one that's got to have the best job, the best watch, the most money, the most attractive girlfriend, the best car, the biggest house, blah, 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 blah. And then reality hits. Life ain't like that. Yeah? Look at me. I worked a sales job for 10 years because for me, that was the way I had to go and make money. I didn't get the qualifications to go and be this, that, or the other, but I could make good money in sales. What about the impact on my mental health, though? Doesn't matter. You've got to grind. You've got to work hard. You've got to succeed. You've got to earn the money. You've got to be the top of... A real man would be at the top of that sales board, making the fucking deals, selling, making money. All the while, my mental health is getting ground down again and again and again. So, yeah. You're put into society believing all this stuff. And then what if it doesn't work out? Reality crumbles around you as you realise, shit. So yeah, I just think that, let's get back to the article for now, okay? I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. So we were here, weren't we? Let's continue. The face where TFW and OGF's director Alex Lee Moyer is, it's worth noting, a woman, and therefore something of an outsider to the incel world. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, the film gains close access to its subject matter. It follows 5 disaffected young men connected by the incel subculture and the adjacent frog Twitter. Oh, right, okay. So this, I guess this is maybe like linking in with the alt-right, perhaps, or something like that. The irony-laden online community, best known for its associations with the trolling icon Pepe, as they struggle with their own feelings of withdrawal, as well as the toxic community they encounter online. So yeah, this is where the kind of like the hiding behind the irony and stuff comes in as well, right? So this is a part of it too. To be genuine and to be earnest is to show weakness. That's drilled into us through like society, right? Irony poisoning is kind of like the modern day version of a kind of stoicism, I think, right? So you know, stoicism is the. I mean, I don't know much about stoicism. Listen, I don't know much about anything. Okay, but I do feel very much like irony, hiding behind irony, is a modern day kind of version of stoicism. You know, that's how I perceive it to be, and you know, showing your true emotions and stuff. But this is the problem, right? So you're in this community where irony is king. You know. But the thing is, to actually connect with people, you have to be real. You can't just be an irony-poisoned shithead. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you know that meme of like, oh, a Reddit memer. Oh, there's a video about it. There's a video I watched today about it, actually. And it's basically like living with a Redditor, and this person's just doing Reddit memes, and they're absolutely insufferable. And it's obviously like a joke and a meme, but there are genuinely people out there that don't understand how fucking insufferable online meme culture is when you engage in that in real life. Yeah, irony does feel safe. You can't be harmed if you're behind a shield of irony, right? Vidya and Charles are brothers who have been caught up in a national news story after Charles posted a photo of himself posing with a gun in the run-up. Hey, Pubby Puncher, thanks so much for the gifted sub. Enjoy the emotes, enjoy the ad-free viewing. Sean is a shy and soft-spoken bodybuilder who lives with his mum in a cramped apartment. Carl pours his heart out in a cowboy hat and an all-denim outfit. The final interviewee to be introduced, he goes only by the scream name Cantbot. Jesus Christ. Is a bookish guide to the internet netherworld who went viral in 2016 when he appeared at a rally declaring that Donald Trump would complete the system of German idealism. What? The film Sympathetic Gaze shows them as surprisingly likeable and often charismatic interview subjects. Okay, I'll check that out sometime. We follow them on walks through empty suburban streets and see inside the bedrooms where they spend most of their time, playing video games, trolling the internet, and dealing with the lengthy depressive episodes. Because this is the thing, right? Let's say you know someone in real life that has a serious mental health disorder. Like, let's say they have clinical depression, right? And it's really bad. They're like suicidal. You know, you try and speak to them. They're extremely rude, dismissive. They ignore you. They're just fucking harsh to you. Whatever, right? It's like, if you know someone in real life and you care about them, you're obviously going to be a bit more generous towards someone when they've got depression if you really care about them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, okay, Dario. So obviously, whilst okay, just to be clear, I'm not saying you should go online and if someone's trolling you and memeing you and being really harsh to you, you should like be nice to them. Do you know what I mean? But I think for me, it's a real recognition that some of these people that engage in this kind of behavior are like deeply depressed. They're deeply, deeply, deeply depressed. You know? And that's, you know, some people are just assholes, okay? Like, you know, some people will just like being a dickhead on the internet, you know? But some of these people, this attitude and behavior comes from a place of pain, like deep pain within them, you know? It's so fucked. All of this is so fucked up. Like, it's so fucked. You know? Hiding behind this avatar, you know? Invisible. But, you know, what you need to imagine... Wait. It is literally this. It is literally this. Wait, hang on. Let me see if I can find it. Wait, hang on. It is unironically this. That is it. It's unironically what some people are doing. The film also shows us the larger world they inhabit. Dramatic scenes of Vidi and Charo shooting assault rifles in the wintry backwoods of the Pacific Northwest. A drone shot of Sean wasting time in a mulchy neighborhood park. Carl strutting past live-in motels around the outskirts of El Paso, Texas, solemnly smoking a cigarette while a mariachi band plays in front of him. Rather than focus on the most notorious aspects of incel life, Moya looks towards some of the more intimate and altogether less angry parts of the incel world, seeking to understand rather than to cast out. And I think this is a big thing, right? So, these people are human beings, right? Regardless of what they do, regardless of what they say, they're human, right? And sometimes when someone is an egregious person in some ways, so they're misogynistic, they go online and they troll and they're horrendous, they're horrible, blah blah, etc., etc. To peel that back and to look at the humanity of that person can be a bit like, it can make you feel uncomfortable, right? It can make you feel a bit uncomfortable. Because we're primed to think of these people, we're socialized to think of these people as irredeemable, evil, bad, etc., etc., etc. Hey, Endon Hacks, how's it going? Thanks for the raid. Appreciate the raid, thanks, buddy. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. We're peeling that back a bit. If you just peel that back a little bit, and you see the humanity behind the mask, well, that can be very shocking. That can make you feel uncomfortable, right? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm starting to understand. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're going against the otherization that everyone else is trying to do. You're pushing back against that. You're uncomfortable. Why? The title of the film refers to a meme that originated on the 4chan message board, a highly confessional space where posters show anonymous green text. Personal moments that usually fall into the categories of humiliation, general suffering, and strange everyday beauty. The depiction of the film's subjects is similarly tender and compassionate, a compelling look at alienated men trying and ultimately succeeding to overcome the resentment and aimlessness of inceldom. Because it is a dead end, right? It is a dead end. Because even like the logical conclusion of inceldom is like, I guess would be MGTOW, like men going their own way. So you essentially just reject the lot of it and you say, well, I'm just going to do my own thing. Society hasn't got a place for me, so I'm just going to reject it all and go and do my own thing, right? But where does that lead you to? I don't know. I've actually got something to announce after this, which links into this, so that should be interesting. Yeah, Lux. Listen, if you want to feel uncomfortable, go and peek behind the mask of someone that you think is egregious and you hate, and see what's going on behind, because... Yeah. But the face with no girlfriend is at points a difficult film to watch, knowing what we do about the reprehensible acts these groups have inspired. And that's it, isn't it? When you've got that humanity there, and then you think about what they do, like, it's fucked. Oh, Iron Mage, I'm going to cover that, don't worry. Although Moya steers clear of the darkest parts of inceldom, there's still plenty to make us feel uncomfortable. Hey!
This is for when you called those has chud fucking moron grifters the other debate night.
Hey! Thanks, Charmhole, for the sub. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't even want to make fun of them, even though they obviously hate women. They're lonely and angry. Yeah. But it's important to note, just because they're lonely and angry, it doesn't excuse that behaviour, but it explains the behaviour, right? So someone can be lonely and angry, and you can and they can act out upon that badly, and you can be critical of that action and lay out how that's harmful, but you can still accept that they're doing it because they're lonely and angry. And it's like, how do we fix the core issue here, right? Because, like, oh, you can tell them off, you can say you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't be this, that, and the other, you know, but that doesn't get to the core issue of what the problem is. You're just putting a plaster over a massive wound. A film follows many crack jokes about Elliot Rodger, the incel mass shooter who murdered 7 people before killing himself near the UC Santa Barbara in 2014, and Alex Minassian, a Canadian ex-soldier responsible for the Toronto van attack in 2018. They hold resentments and often flirt with fascist aesthetics. Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? You know, it's... Another unsavoury part of the subculture that's avoided by Moya is the movement's complicated relationship to race. For example, there is a sizable non-white proportion of incels, many of whom often express self-loathing over not being able to achieve a Western idealised male form. Jeez, that's so sad. We're getting like intersections. You're getting these intersections now, these strange intersections where you've got non-white incels who, obviously within that space, I guess the Western white male body is idealized, but they can never obtain that because they're not white. Jesus. Trolling and humour are presented as the dominant forces in the community. Misogyny and violence are shown to be ancillary, often discounting real-world instances of aggression, whether direct or diffuse, that have emerged from these online communities. The film's spotlight on the emotional fabric of incel life online and off is a welcome contribution, even if it too quickly glosses over the deep-rooted hatred and violence of the 4chan universe, which should be harshly condemned. How did people... Sorry, listen. How did people have such a problem with this article? Like, it said at the start, it spoke in a very condemning way of the bad stuff. It says here that it criticises the film for glossing over the deep-rooted hatred and violence of the 4chan universe. How can anyone... I tell you what happened. People read the headline, people read the tweet, and they started tweeting, didn't they? They didn't even read the fucking article. They didn't even bother to look at it, did they? They just knee-jerk reaction, bullshit. Jesus, oh my God. I tell you what, Twitter is hopeless. Forget about it, okay? It's a waste of time. Holy shit. It's so annoying. Exactly. It doesn't just say incels bad. It doesn't just go incels bad. It says incels are bad, right? And here's maybe why they're bad. And to some people, that is just too much. I think this is a good article. It's even criticizing the film because it didn't go into the incel bad stuff enough. What makes Moy's documentary stand out is her effort to situate her subjects within a broader socio-economic context. And look, that makes sense to do, does it not? We do it with everything else, right? We do it with everything else. You know, Nazis will quote black crime statistics. The first thing we'll say is it's because of socioeconomic conditions and factors, right? So surely it would make sense to do the same thing here, would it not? If you're being consistent. If you're being consistent, you would apply the same logic here, right? Surely you would. Because we don't think that these people are just evil at their heart, do we? I don't know. Incels in the face when their girlfriend are not just women hating shit posters. They are also. So look, it even says they're not just this, they are also. So they're saying they're both. They're saying they're both, right? How can anyone take issue with this article? It's perfectly reasonable. The point I'm making, Lux, is that some progressives and some so-called leftists will kind of just they'll not engage with the concepts of incels at a systemic level. Maybe I can show you some tweets that point to this after I've done this segment, okay? But there are definitely people out there who don't engage with this in the same way that they engage with other social issues, right? You just have to go and look at the reactions to this article and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, that's cool. No, that's good. I want to look at some of the tweets anyway. But this will be put like a YouTube segment. It'll probably be quite a long one. But I want to look at the tweets after I've gone through this article, just to show you the kind of stuff. While this contextualization doesn't explain away the worst of... While this contextualization doesn't explain away the worst of incel culture, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this article, by the way. This article is fair, balanced, critical of the bad side of inceldom. I don't know what people's issue is. Maybe they can't read. It contributes to a much richer portrait. And Moya's interviewees are shown to have some self-reflexivity on this account as well, analysing their own cultural and socio-economic identities. Moya places the acronym NEAT front and centre in a presentation of the incel, a demographic classification first used by Margaret Thatcher's government in the late 1980s. NEAT has since found purchase in the international development world and oddly as a self-categorising device within the incel community. Sean tells the camera, "I failed 9th grade. I kind of just dropped off the map. I dropped out. I was going through my own shit. Since then, I've just been a fucking NEAT." Wow. This is exactly what I was just talking about, right? This is exactly what I was just talking about how there's this expectation put upon men to be the best, to be the smartest, to be the best employed, making the most money, etc., etc., etc. And then you go out into the real world and the rug gets pulled out from under your feet and you slam face first into reality. Hey, guess what? That big job you're supposed to have, the beautiful girlfriend, this, That's fucking almost impossible to obtain. Fuck you. That's what society does to people, okay? In all this, the 2008 financial crisis and the failing neoliberal order are essential hallmarks for Moya. Amid the crosshatch of issues at play for the film's subjects, childhood traumas, ailing mental health, awkward and often fragile masculinity, TFW No GF makes it impossible to ignore the broader dynamics caused by economic crisis. The future that was sold to me is a complete lie. What did I just say? I've said it twice now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We're sold a lie. We're sold a lie. We're sold this lie. Oh my god. So I'm just going to do nothing instead, explains Carl, one of the film's subjects. TFW No GF is a portrait of young men who are facing a future with no long-term economic opportunity and little in the way of meaningful democratic engagement or collective civic life. In particular, Moya's exploration of the American landscape draws our attention to the effects of the 2007-8 housing market collapse and the subsequent austerity politics that so devastated public sector institutions like education. As Campbell puts it, people used to graduate and go get a job, and that used to work pretty well for them, but now that's impossible. You have no experience in anything, you're from a small town background, and you don't have any connections. So you end up living back at home, and your parents are telling you to apply at McDonald's or something because it's better than staying at home. Illuminating. Very illuminating. One of the film's best shots is a lingering view of military vehicles being carried across the Texas desert on a freight train, overlaid with Carl's musings about the fact his aging parents own neither the house nor their car and his own limited economic options. The sequence plays like a perfectly hammed up version of Marilyn Manson's tirade in Bowling for Columbine, where Manson, backstage at a show, clad in makeup and platform boots, calmly suggests that goth music may have little influence on the actions of school shooters when compared to the pervasiveness of reactionary American jingoism. Manson stood up for teen goths in the face of mainstream media representation that wanted to demonise them. In a similar move, Moya wants to challenge the idea that incels are nothing more than a violent threat to society. Moya is careful not to simply diagnose the men as part of the loneliness epidemic. The cohort of incels tell us about friends who have died from overdoses and suicide, about dropping out of school and moving back in with their parents. To its detriment, the film has a tendency to leave out the crueler elements of inceldom. Nonetheless, what Moya is saying is worth listening to. The incel story is at least in part about the breakdown of institutions and a broader loss of meaning. Okay, we're near the end now. The Face When No Girlfriend is not a Netflix true crime reflection on this irresistible charisma of a cult leader, and it doesn't have a Louis Theroux type host gleefully playing dumb, nor is it a self-congratulatory podcast looking to swim into controversial territory. In a somewhat combative interview with Rolling Stone, Moya described TFW No GF as a public works project, an attempt to understand a subsection of society that's been left behind. Moya resists a portrait of the incel that would have them as simple, nefarious product of internet culture, opting instead to contextualise incels with the broader failures of the liberal social contract. Yeah. I completely agree with this article. Like, oh my god. I just can't believe. Oh, I don't know. The NEETs possess insights into the structural forces that have produced their own fatalism. Economic collapse that has disinvested them from the ideology of decorum and upwards progress, from Hillary Clinton's oft-quoted declaration that America is already great. In part, then, the men in The Face When No Girlfriend point towards... Listen, puppy puncher, you always do this, okay? When someone says liberal, they're not talking about you. They're not talking about individual liberals. They're talking about the liberal system we exist under, okay? Which prides individualism, owning one's success or failure, etc., etc., okay? It's not a personal attack on liberals. It's commenting on the broad societal system of liberalism that we live under, okay? Stop taking it personally when these lefty articles talk about liberal or liberalism. It's not talking about you personally or other individual liberals, okay? It's talking about the broader system. It's not Puppy Puncher. It's not a bunch of bullshit. Oh my God, okay, listen. I need to get through this article, okay? We can argue about this later. The film, in part, the men in face when their girlfriend... points towards the failures of market-based logic for individual freedoms and responsibility. Yeah, this is exactly it. This is what I was saying. So it's about how the idea that we're all individually free to go and succeed or fail as we so please. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The film looks beyond the bareness of the green text personal writing in order to draw it out as political and existential response to a system in which collective life has been stripped away, professionalised, or rendered entirely ineffective. Moyer's film attempts to show us how corners of contemporary culture deal with dwindling prospects in the face of vastly unequal progress. Inceldom is shown to be an inflammatory, impotent dissent to match the gilded self-righteousness of moral capitalism and the market logic that drives technocratic liberal policy making. If it appears at times too If it appears at times too forgiving of a nihilistic and even violent cultural movement, Moyer's contribution is nonetheless to show how structural miseries help lead the way to 4chan. In the near absence of a relevant left to address these miseries, subcultures like the incel may only proliferate. Ultimately, the best moments in the face when their girlfriend are when someone comes up for air. In full cowboy attire, Carl recounts the late-night Greyhound bus trip he took to get to the interview, everyone tired and miserable, and finding communion with the passenger sitting next to him over how bad the bus trip is, a metaphor that extends nicely to the camaraderie of the incel community who find solace with one another in the miserable bus trip of American life post-crash. And that's it. Now, does anyone here have any... I mean, you might disagree with some parts of this, but another... I think that was a very well written, well laid out, well explained, deep dive into the incel culture. That went to lengths to not only criticise elements of like the incel culture, which are bad, but criticise the film for not going into enough detail to go into and point out these things that are bad. But like... It's on Amazon Prime, okay. But again, once again... Yeah, sure. I don't know. I'm probably going to watch the film at some point. But once again, you know, Twitter goes wild over what to me seems to be a fairly reasonable article that says, hey, incels are bad because they're misogynistic and their ideology and their thought process has resulted in violence, which is bad. However, as well as the misogyny and the etc., they are also the outcome of their economic circumstances, right? Which is the lefty argument, if essentially, you know, the idea that people are the results and outcome of their circumstances. People aren't born inherently bad, you know. There are other factors that can affect it. Are we denouncing ideologies that produce violence now? What are you talking about, Bookworm? The article has denounced it a number of times. I myself have denounced it, the violence and stuff, a number of times. I mean, I don't know what else. I don't understand what you're trying to say. So yeah, I think that like it just seems so odd to me that we will, on the one hand, say, okay, that's because of socioeconomic factors. That's because of socioeconomic factors. You know, the people that are engaging in that sort of behavior, you know, aren't doing it because they're inherently bad. They're doing it because primarily they're socioeconomic conditions. But then this group is presented and we just throw all that out the window and it's like, no, those people are just bad. Like, do people understand how ridiculous that logic is? You either engage in the analysis and looking through the lens of how people's socioeconomic circumstances lead them to the position that they're in today, or you don't. You can't do it with one group and not do it with another. It doesn't make sense. It's not consistent, okay? And the truth is that inceldom is a failure of our current system, okay? Inceldom is a failure of the system. People that fall down this rabbit hole have been failed by the system, okay? And the only difference between me and some of these incel people is that I have never had a problem with women. So that's never been an issue for me to push me towards this line of thinking. But, however, if I wasn't that good with women, if I wasn't able to speak to them, if I wasn't able to engage in the dating market, I could easily have gone down this path. I could easily have gone down this path. Yeah? Hey, Aiko. Yes, the difference between me and the incels is I'm actually a good gamer, okay? So yeah. I just think that like we need to like stop this ironic, like, look, a few memes or whatever is fine, but if at your very core you're not willing to engage. I lost to a tuna fish. That's true. But I think if like, you know, you're the kind of person that's just going to do the men is trash stuff, like whatever, people will meme and whatever. But if you genuinely aren't willing to engage.
If I wasn't such a giga chad with a huge swinging dong, I would be an incel. Chud logic. 2020.
Thank you very much for the pit sheep in the box. But if you're not willing to like actually engage with the systemic issues that exist, that create these kind of subcultures, then what's the point? Like, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. Look, I'm not just... I'm telling you this because it's important, okay? I want you people to understand that I could have been an incel if it wasn't for my prowess with women, okay? I am being serious, though. The person you see before you today, I could have been an incel. And I think it's important to remember that just because these people share the identity of the oppressors, of the ruling class, of the patriarchy, the white male, just because they share that identity and they benefit from the systems that exist, right? doesn't mean they can't be victims of that system too.
louderwithcrowder.com/.
Oh my god, anonymous gifter. Thanks so much for the gifted sub. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the emotes and the ad-free viewing. So yeah, you know, I just think that, like, if you as someone that is negatively affected by the behavior of some of these people, I can understand you maybe not wanting to engage with this or engage with them and stuff like that. You know, that's fair enough. But the issue is, these issues exist. And someone said in chat earlier, just continuously denouncing them does nothing to fix it. And that's true. Denouncing these individuals will do nothing. Even denouncing the movement as a whole, until you fix the systemic issues that cause people to go down this path. And I think, really, I've said all I want to say about it. We'll do some exclusive stream memes, and we'll go and look at some tweets about this. But yeah, absolutely, like, you know, the article's fine. Perfectly legitimate analysis that goes out of its way to denounce the bad parts of the inceldom whilst trying to analyse some of the other aspects. Good article. Twitter, once again, loses its mind after reading the headline. And that's it.